Hello, and this is the six-pack plank challenge. You're going to get 5 variations of the plank, and this session is going to
I'm
take
Darren
only
Harris,
3
and
or 5
I
minutes.
am a
Each exercise
dual
will give you
Paralympian
30
and
seconds,
England's
so
most capped and most
basically
decorated
7
blind footballer.
different exercises.
These
Now,
days,
of course,
I have finished
fundamentals of
my
every
playing
plank
career and I focus predominantly on speaking.
Now, we've got a couple of things we want to talk to you about today. One of which is, of course, your footballing career, but also you've just released a video during this pandemic lockdown on how to keep fit. Let's start with football. Tell me about your football career.
Darren Harris is coming on the
I
pitch and
started in
taking, replacing
1996, well, certainly my England
Darren's
career. I
senior
mean,
player
if
with
we
the
if
number
we go
2
back even
leaving the
further,
pitch.
I suppose football was in my DNA. My dad was a really good footballer. Allegedly, his nickname was Pele, and apparently he didn't want to cut off his dreadlocks growing up in the 70s, and so he was that rebellious kid, which I probably picked up that kind of streak in him. And I went to mainstream primary school. I played football, but as my sight was getting worse, it was getting more and more difficult for me to probably play as well as I wanted to. And then I went to a special school. I went to Worcester, and I suppose, tongue in cheek, but it opened my eyes because I hadn't really been around a lot of blind people.
Let's wind forward a bit because you played 162 times, I think I'm right in saying, for England, retired fairly recently. Tell us about playing for England VI football team. Who were you with? What sort of competitions did you take part in? Tell us about what it was like.
So I remember my very first game. It was in 1996. It was in Madrid. And to be honest, I was terrible. My coach always tells any new player coming into the team about that experience because I still had a little bit of vision then, and putting on a blindfold was so disorientating. I'd be walking around without it on, and seeing things, and then putting this blindfold on, I was just plunged into darkness. And I remember walking onto the pitch and just been lost. It was a mercy call really taking me off. I was on the pitch and then taken off after a couple of minutes because I was bumping into other players. I was bumping into the boards. I just didn't know where I was. And I think one of the things I learned from that was that you've just got to get yourself in the right frame of mind to perform at your best. And I used to put my blindfold on half an hour, sometimes an hour before the game, so that by the time the sort of the kickoff came, I hadn't even thought about sight. I was purely in the mode of football and blind football specifically. So that was my very first trip. I went to the European Championships the year after that in Barcelona, and then went my first big trip to the World Cup out in Brazil. And it was kind of like that every single year. But I think at the start of blind football, it was an amateur setup. I had a full-time job. I used to work in IT, and football was something I did around that. I trained in the evenings after work, and then at weekends, and sort of monthly, the squad got together. But we did our own fundraising then. We were shaking buckets at train stations. We were contacting companies to help us get some kit together, and it was a really, really kind of amateur setup until 2000 when the FA got involved.
How did it change things? How did the FA's involvement make things really different for you?
Well, they try to bring sort of more professionalism into the game, and obviously more funding, and there was more structure. But I suppose the challenges still remained that blind football is inherently quite a difficult game, and the game's been growing across the world massively. I mean, there are over 50 countries playing blind football across the world, and I can say that in most of those countries, they're finding more players, but it's been a real struggle for us to keep the numbers involved, and the level that you have to be at now. There's a lot of programs around the world where players are full time, properly paid athletes in some situations, and that started to happen over here too. There is now a pathway as a blind football. When I left school and went to university, I never kind of thought you could have a career as a blind footballer. That was just something you did for fun. But I think in the future that is something that's possible, where people might choose disabled sport as a pathway, as a career.
What makes a good blind footballer for you? How can you distinguish between those who are okay and those who are able to play for their international team?
Spatial awareness is massive. We walk onto a pitch and we sort of map it out, and you learn to use every available piece of information you can to work out where you are at any one moment on the pitch. And I kind of go back to when I was at Worcester and just watching totally blind guys riding bikes, weaving around objects, and it blew my mind. And the more you play the game, the better you get at it. I mean, you take so much information in through your ears as a blind footballer. Just to remind people, you've got 3 pairs of eyes on the pitch. It's a 5-side game. It's completely enclosed, but the goalkeeper can see. You've got a coach on the halfway line that can give you information. You've also got a guy behind the opposition goal who can give you information. So that's 3 pairs of eyes who are constantly talking and giving you information. You're speaking to your teammates, so they're giving you information. You can hear the opposition doing exactly the same, and you're also trying to listen to the ball. There is an awful lot of information and noise, and you over time learn to be able to tune in and tune out and focus at different levels of attention so that you can get whatever you need in that moment out of it. And once the ball's at your feet, then you probably don't need to start listening for the ball. Then you're putting your head up and you're scanning and you're trying to listen around for what to do next. But that just comes through practice.
You've played 162 games, as we've already mentioned. Give us a couple of the highlights. Don't tell us about all 162 games, but give us a couple of highlights.
Well, there's a couple of funny stories. One was in the European Championships in Greece. It was a qualification for Beijing, actually, and we played Italy, and we needed a draw to get into the semi-final. And one of my key tasks in the team was I sorted out the playlist. Music is a massive part of any changing room in sport. So I used to sort out all the music for the changing room. And one of the songs I had on there was Bohemian Rhapsody. And so we're all in a huddle in the changing room, and we're playing, Bohemian Rhapsody. And there's this really heavy metal kind of rock part in the middle. It goes down, 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 and like we're all in a huddle, we're jumping up and down, bouncing up and down, and we go out onto the pitch and we play horrendously, and we play the worst match of the tournament, and we're 1-0 down. There's the minute to go in the game, and we're about to exit the tournament, and Dave Clark, who was our striker and was not renowned for passing, if we're brutally honest. I hope he listens to this talk, because he'll share my sentiment. But he was down in the far corner of the pitch, and for once in his life he squared the ball, and it came to me on the edge of the box, and I stroked it into the bottom right hand corner, and that was 52 seconds to go in the game, and we got the draw we needed. We got into the semi-final, beat France 2-0 in the semi-final. I scored both the goals in that, and the team qualified for Beijing, and that. But I always remember after that. I remember we came in after the match, and the gaffer goes, "Right, we're not going to have any more music before games." And it always reminds me sort of what sort of knee-jerk reactions we always have. We always want a single cause as to why we didn't perform well in a game. I don't really think it was down to the music, if I'm honest. I just think we had an off day.
Over the halfway line, right hand side, approaching the broken line. It goes into the penalty area. It's a goal into the left hand. All right, cracking goal there by Harris. He picked up the initial.
What about your Paralympics exploits? Because you've, as well as being a footballer, you've participated in other sports at a very high level as well. Just tell us briefly what you've done in the Paralympics and which sports you've participated in and to what level, etc.
I'd always wanted to be a Paralympian ever since I went to the games in 1996. I went to Atlanta on holiday with a friend of mine, and we went to watch the Paralympic Games, and I was there just sitting in the crowd, just watching it all unfold before me. And I thought, you know what, I shouldn't be in the crowd. I should be in centre stage, kind of taking part. And I was a black belt in judo at the time, so I thought, well, maybe I can qualify with judo. I packed in my job for the job I'd done for nearly 10 years. And yeah, I just threw myself into judo. I trained twice a day, 6 days a week for those 4 years. And yeah, I went to the games, and I always remember the day I qualified. It was just, we used to get these ranking lists come out, and you would see how many points different players got from different tournaments. But I just wanted to work it out myself. I didn't want to wait for the ranking list to be published. So I was sitting there with a spreadsheet trying to do these calculations and just wanted to know if I'd done enough. And I thought I had, but when I found out officially, I was really, really emotional. I mean, going to the games itself, I suppose, in life, your aspirations change. It's a little bit like, well, I've got to the games, but now I'm here. Now I want to see if I can win a medal. But, I was the lowest ranked player there. I literally just scraped in. And, I had the Cuban first round, and I never beat him that day. I hadn't beaten him before. I didn't beat him after that. He was just a better player than me. And as my old judo coach used to say, is that, you have to know your place in the food chain, and that was my level.
What you'll find with this is that as you get more tired, you'll feel that your hips start falling towards the floor. You can feel that your back starts to hyperextend. You may even feel a bit of tension.
The reason I contacted you was because I read about a video that you're producing for the coronavirus lockdown. I think it's a keep fit video, but I'll let you tell us what it is. Go on.
The plan is to do a series of videos. I just did one video, which was around, it was a variation of the plank. I called it the 6-pack plank challenge. So it's just 5 variations on the plank. And really, I wanted to give disabled people some different ideas of things that they could do at home, because it's a really challenging time for a lot of people. And I know from personal experience that exercise is better than any antidepressant on the market. We are designed to move. If you spend your life sitting still every day, you're literally asking to be depressed. That's the result of it. We're designed to move. And I realized that so many people were sort of in lockdown, stuck at home. Some of my sighted friends, they can go for a jog around the park. They can take the bike for a spin, but that isn't open to me and for so many people like myself. And so I've been doing this work with West Midlands Combined Authority, and I'm on the advisory board for including West Midlands, and it's all around increasing participation in sport for disabled people. And we just kind of, and then I was just chatting to one of the guys. He says, "Oh no, what are you doing at home?" I said, "Yeah, I've got a few different things I'm working on. One of them is a handstand push-up, which I've been working on. So I've been able to do a handstand freestanding without a wall. So I've been working on that for the last few weeks, and just setting myself these small little goals that I can work towards to keep my mind and body tuned in."
Could you give me a brief audio description of the video, just a brief one?
Apparently, I look like a sort of little Buddhist monk. You know, sat there on my little mat with my legs crossed. But in essence, what I do is I go into a plank position for 30 seconds. There's an app I use called Tabata, which allows you to time everything anyway. So I can time it with that. And then the second phase is I do then a hip dip. So I just twist my hip to one side and twist my hip to the other side. So this is still in the plank position. And I do that 15 times each side. And then the third bit is I do what we might call a mountain climb. So I'm still in the plank position. So I'm moving my right knee to my left elbow and then my left knee to my right elbow. And I do that 15 times each side. Then I move into a side plank and I do that 30 seconds each side. And then I do some side dips. So again, in this side plank, lower my hip down a few inches and then back up. And then I do some sort of twist throughs. So I'm still in the plank position. If I'm on my left side, I stick my right arm up, pointing towards the ceiling, and then I rotate my arm through between my armpit, underneath my left armpit.
It's probably about 20 years since I last interviewed you, so it's good to renew your acquaintance, as you've been saying. So thanks very much.
I hope everyone listening to this takes something positive out of what I've had to say so far, and yeah, good luck.
Switch back to the other side, and now we're going to do the little dips.